The bullet grazed Olivia Owens's left arm as she dove behind the water trough, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. And in that moment, she understood that being nobody's first choice might actually save her life, because the outlaw had aimed for her sister's fancy blue dress, instead of Olivia's dusty brown one. Blood seeped through the torn fabric of her sleeve, warm and sticky against her skin, but Olivia barely felt it over the rush of adrenaline flooding her veins. The April afternoon in Wilson, Kansas had turned from peaceful to chaos in the span of 3 heartbeats. The Dalton gang had ridden into town with guns blazing, and everyone had scattered like frightened chickens. "Stay down," a man's voice commanded from somewhere to her right. Olivia pressed herself flatter against the rough wooden planks of the general store's front wall, her breathing shallow and quick. More gunshots rang out, the sound splitting the air like thunder. She could hear screaming from inside the buildings, the panicked whinnying of horses, the shouts of men engaged in combat. She risked a glance around the edge of the water trough. 3 outlaws remained on horseback in the middle of Main Street, firing wildly at the sheriff and his deputies who had taken cover behind various storefronts. The bodies of 2 townsmen already lay motionless in the dirt, and Olivia felt bile rise in her throat. "I said stay down, woman." The voice came again, closer this time, and Olivia turned her head to see a cowboy crouched behind a barrel just 10 feet away. He was young, maybe 25 or 26, with dark hair that fell across his forehead and the sharpest green eyes she had ever seen. Those eyes were currently fixed on her with an intensity that made her breath catch for an entirely different reason than fear. "I am down," she hissed back, pressing her hand against her bleeding arm. The cowboy's gaze dropped to her wound and his jaw tightened. "You are hit. Just a graze." "Still bleeding." He shifted his weight, clearly calculating something. "When I move, you run for the hotel entrance. It is 3 doors down. Can you make it?" Olivia looked at the distance between her position and the hotel. It seemed like miles instead of yards. "I think so. Do not think." "No." His voice was firm but not unkind. "Because I am only going to draw their fire once." She met his eyes and saw the absolute certainty there. This man would risk his life for her, a stranger without hesitation. Something in her chest squeezed tight. "I can make it." He nodded once, then before she could say anything else, he burst from behind the barrel with his gun drawn, firing toward the outlaws and shouting to draw their attention. Olivia did not waste the opportunity. She gathered her skirts and ran, her boots pounding against the wooden boardwalk as bullets whizzed past her. The hotel entrance loomed ahead, and she threw herself through the doorway, stumbling into the lobby and crashing into a settee. "Olivia." Her younger sister Margaret rushed to her side, tears streaming down her face. "You are bleeding." "Oh God, I thought you were dead." "I am fine," Olivia managed, though her arm throbbed viciously now that the immediate danger had passed. "Where is Papa?" "Upstairs with Mama." She fainted when the shooting started. Margaret's hands fluttered uselessly over Olivia's wound. "We need to bandage this." The hotel owner, Mrs. Patterson, appeared with strips of clean cloth and a basin of water. "Let me see, child." Olivia sat still while the older woman cleaned and wrapped her arm, but her mind was elsewhere. She kept thinking about the cowboy with the green eyes, wondering if he had made it to safety, wondering why he had helped her when he did not even know her name. The shooting outside continued for another 10 minutes before finally falling silent. Olivia waited with the others in the hotel lobby, listening to the ominous quiet that followed. Then came the sounds of men shouting, the jangle of chains, the heavy footsteps of boots on the boardwalk. The sheriff pushed through the hotel door, his face grim. "All clear. We got 2 of them. The third rode out, but he will not get far with a bullet in his shoulder." "Anyone else hurt?" Mrs. Patterson asked. "3 wounded, 2 dead. Could have been worse." The sheriff's eyes swept the gathered townspeople. "If not for that drifter who came through this morning, might have been a lot worse." Olivia stood up quickly. "The cowboy with the dark hair, is he all right?" The sheriff gave her an appraising look. "Took a bullet to the leg, but he will live. Doc Harmon is patching him up now." He paused. "Said he saw a woman get hit." "That you?" "Just my arm. Mrs. Patterson bandaged it." "Good." The sheriff nodded and moved on to check on the others. Olivia found she could not sit back down. Her feet seemed to have a mind of their own, carrying her toward the door despite Margaret's protests. "Where are you going?" her sister demanded, to thank him. "Olivia, you cannot just go out there. It is not proper." But Olivia was already out the door. Proper had never gotten her much of anywhere in life. Being proper meant standing aside while her prettier sister got all the attention from suitors. Being proper meant accepting that she would always be second choice, the one men settled for when they could not have what they really wanted. Well, today someone had chosen to save her life, and she would damn well thank him for it. Doc Harmon's office was 2 buildings down from the hotel. Olivia pushed through the door without knocking and found the doctor bent over a man lying on his examination table. The cowboy. His pants had been cut away and the doctor was stitching a wound in his upper thigh. The cowboy's face was pale, but he was conscious, his jaw clenched against the pain. "Miss Owens," Doc Harmon said without looking up, "if you are here about your arm, you will have to wait." "I am here about him," Olivia said, moving closer. The cowboy's eyes found hers and something passed between them, something she could not name but felt all the way to her bones. "Then you can make yourself useful," the doctor replied. "Hold his hand. This is going to hurt." Olivia did not hesitate. She moved to the cowboy's side and took his hand in hers. His fingers were calloused and strong, and they closed around hers with surprising gentleness. "What is your name?" she asked softly. "Yates," he said through gritted teeth as the doctor pulled the thread through his skin. "Yates Randolph. I am Olivia Owens. You saved my life, Mr. Randolph. Just Yates." His grip tightened as the doctor continued working. "And I would do it again." "Why?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "You do not even know me." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and she felt stripped bare under that gaze. "Maybe I want to," Doc Harmon snorted. "Save the courting for after I finish sewing you back together, boy." But Yates did not look away from Olivia, and she found she could not look away from him either. His hand in hers felt right in a way that made no logical sense. They were strangers. He was a drifter who would probably ride out of Wilson as soon as his leg healed. She was the overlooked daughter of a feed store owner, the girl who never quite measured up. And yet, "All done," Doc Harmon announced, tying off the last stitch. "You will need to stay off that leg for at least a week, maybe 2. No riding, no walking unless absolutely necessary." "I do not have anywhere to be," Yates said, still looking at Olivia. The doctor washed his hands in a basin. "Mrs. Patterson has rooms at the hotel. I will send word you need one." "I can take care of that," Olivia heard herself say. "I am staying there with my family." Doc Harmon raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Yates squeezed her hand once before releasing it. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "You are the one who got shot saving people. For not running away." Olivia felt heat rise in her cheeks. She helped the doctor get Yates into a wheelchair, then pushed him out of the office and down the street to the hotel. People stared as they passed, and she could already hear the gossip starting. Olivia Owens, wheeling around the stranger who got shot. Olivia Owens, who never could attract a decent man, throwing herself at a drifter. Let them talk. She was tired of caring what people thought. Mrs. Patterson set Yates up in a ground floor room at the back of the hotel. It was small but clean, with a window overlooking the stable yard. Olivia helped him into the bed, trying not to notice the way his muscles moved under his shirt or the warmth of his skin when her hand accidentally brushed his arm. "You should rest," she said, smoothing the quilt over him. "You should get that arm looked at properly," he countered. "It is just a graze, so you said, but infections do not care about the size of a wound." His green eyes were serious. "Promise me you will have the doctor check it." "Why do you care?" The question came out sharper than she intended, defensive. "You do not know me, Yates Randolph. You do not know anything about me." "Then tell me," he said simply. "I have nowhere to be for the next 2 weeks." Olivia wanted to walk out. She wanted to protect herself from whatever this was, this strange pull she felt toward a man she had met less than an hour ago. But something made her stay. Maybe it was the way he looked at her, like she was someone worth looking at. Maybe it was the fact that he had risked his life without knowing her name. Maybe it was just that she was tired of always being careful, always being second best, always waiting for crumbs of attention. "I grew up here," she found herself saying. "My father owns the feed store. I have a younger sister, Margaret, who is everything I am not. Pretty, charming, good at saying the right things. I am 23 years old and I have never been any man's first choice for anything. The boys who courted me always really wanted her. The men who proposed were settling because she turned them down. So there. That is who I am. The girl nobody picks first." The words hung in the air between them, raw and honest. Olivia felt her face burning. She could not believe she had just said all that to a complete stranger. Yates was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You are wrong." "Excuse me. You are wrong. I picked you first." He shifted in the bed, wincing slightly. "When those outlaws rode into town, I was standing outside the saloon. I saw you and your sister both running for cover. The outlaw took aim and I had 1 second to decide who to help. I chose you. Not because your sister was not in danger, but because something told me you were the one who mattered." Olivia felt tears prick her eyes. "You do not have to say that. I am not saying it to be kind. I am saying it because it is true." He reached out and took her hand again. "You are my choice, Olivia Owens, today and every day after if you will have me." "You are delirious from blood loss," she whispered, but she did not pull her hand away. "Maybe," he agreed, "but I will say the same thing when I am healed. I promise you that." She stayed with him until he fell asleep, his hand still holding hers. Then she carefully extracted herself and went to find her family. Her father was in the hotel dining room with Margaret, both of them looking shaken but unharmed. "There you are," her father said. "We heard you were with that drifter. His name is Yates Randolph, and he saved lives today, Papa." "Including mine." Her father's expression softened. "I know. The sheriff told me. I am grateful to him." He looked at her arm. "How bad is it?" "Just a graze, but I will have Doc Harmon check it properly." She sat down across from them. "Yates will be staying at the hotel while he recovers. I told Mrs. Patterson we would make sure his room is paid for." Margaret's eyes widened. "Olivia, you cannot be serious. People will talk. Let them talk. But he is a drifter. He will leave as soon as he is healed, maybe," Olivia said, "or maybe he will stay. Either way, it is not your concern." Her sister looked like she wanted to argue more, but their father held up a hand. "Your sister is right, Margaret. The man saved lives today. The least we can do is make sure he has a place to recover." That night, Olivia lay in her hotel bed and stared at the ceiling. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Yates drawing the outlaw's fire so she could run. She felt his hand in hers, heard his voice saying those impossible words. "You are my choice. Today and every day after." It was too fast. Too sudden. People did not fall in love in a single afternoon, especially not people like her. She was practical Olivia, sensible Olivia, the one who never took risks or made rash decisions. But she also could not forget the way her heart had leaped when their eyes met. The certainty she had felt when he said he wanted to know her. Maybe, just maybe, this was what it felt like to be someone's first choice. She got up early the next morning and went to check on Yates. She told herself she was just being neighborly, making sure he had everything he needed. But the truth was she could not stop thinking about him. He was awake when she knocked softly on his door, sitting up in bed with a book in his lap. His face brightened when he saw her. "Good morning," he said. "I was hoping you would come. I wanted to make sure you had breakfast. Mrs. Patterson brought me something earlier, but I would not mind the company." He set the book aside. "Did you sleep well?" "Not really," Olivia admitted, pulling a chair close to his bed. "I kept thinking about yesterday." "Me too." His eyes were serious. "Have you reconsidered what I said?" "Do you still think I was delirious?" She took a breath. "I think you said something that no one has ever said to me before, and I do not know what to do with that." "You do not have to do anything. Just let me prove it to you." He reached for her hand and she let him take it. "I know I am just a drifter. I know I have nothing to offer you but myself. But if you give me a chance, I will show you that you are worth choosing. Not just once, but every single day." "Why me?" she asked. "You could have anyone. You are handsome and brave and you saved people's lives." "Margaret is prettier than me. She would—" "Stop," he interrupted gently. "I do not want Margaret, I want you. And you want to know why?" He shifted closer, his thumb rubbing circles on the back of her hand. "Because when those bullets were flying, you did not scream or freeze. You kept your head and you survived. Because when I was lying on that examination table in pain, you held my hand and looked at me like I mattered. Because when you talk, your eyes light up with intelligence and honesty. Because you are real, Olivia, not some painted porcelain doll. You are flesh and blood and strength and heart, and that is 1,000 times more beautiful than anything else." Olivia felt tears slide down her cheeks. "I am not used to anyone seeing me that way. Then they are all fools, but their loss is my gain." He lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. "Let me court you properly. Let me show you what it feels like to be chosen." She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Yates pulled her closer and kissed her forehead, and Olivia felt something inside her chest unfurl like a flower opening to the sun. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of stolen moments and quiet conversations. Olivia spent every spare minute she could in Yates's room, bringing him meals, reading to him, or just talking. They talked about everything. His childhood in Texas, the son of a ranch foreman who had died when Yates was 16. Her life in Wilson, growing up in her sister's shadow. His years drifting from town to town, working odd jobs and never staying anywhere long enough to put down roots. Her dreams of something more than being the overlooked daughter of a feed store owner. "Why did you never settle down?" She asked him one afternoon as they played cards at the small table by his window. Yates studied his hand. "I was waiting." "For what?" "For a reason to stay somewhere." He looked up at her. "For someone who made staying worth more than leaving." Her breath caught. "And have you found that?" "I think I might have." He set down his cards and reached across the table for her hand. "Olivia, I know it has only been 2 weeks. I know people will say we are rushing into things, but I have never been more sure of anything in my life. You are what I have been looking for. You are the reason I came to Wilson." "You came here because you were drifting through," she said, but her heart was pounding. "No, I came here because something told me I needed to be here on that exact day at that exact time. Call it fate or God or pure luck, but I was meant to be here when those outlaws rode in. I was meant to save your life, and you were meant to save mine right back. I did not save your life. Yes, you did. His grip on her hand tightened. I have been dead inside for years, Olivia. Just going through the motions, never feeling anything real. And then I saw you and everything changed. You woke me up. You made me want to live again, not just survive. Olivia stood up and moved around the table, and Yates pulled her onto his lap, careful of his healing leg. She wrapped her arms around his neck and looked into those incredible green eyes. I am falling in love with you, she whispered. It terrifies me. I am already in love with you, he whispered back, and it is the best feeling I have ever known. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. Olivia melted into him, all her defenses crumbling. This was real. He was real. And for the first time in her life, she was someone's first choice. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Yates rested his forehead against hers. "Marry me," he said. Olivia laughed, the sound shaky. "You cannot ask me that." "Why not?" "Because it has only been 2 weeks. Because we barely know each other. Because you are supposed to court me for at least 6 months before proposing." "I will court you for 6 months if that is what you want," he said seriously. "I will court you for 6 years if that is what it takes. But I already know what my answer will be at the end. I want to spend my life with you, Olivia Owens. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep holding you every night. I want to build a home with you and raise children with you and grow old with you. I do not need 6 months to know that." She cupped his face in her hands. "What if I say yes?" His eyes blazed with hope. "Then you will make me the happiest man alive. What if I say we wait until your leg is healed and you have been in town for at least a month? And if you still feel the same way then, we can talk about marriage," he grinned. "Then I will spend the next 2 weeks proving to you that I am not going anywhere. Deal?" She kissed him again, longer this time, and felt his arms tighten around her waist. There was a knock at the door and they sprang apart like guilty children. Olivia smoothed her skirt and opened the door to find Doc Harmon standing there with his medical bag. "Time to check that leg," the doctor said, giving them both a knowing look. "Miss Owens, you are welcome to stay if you like." She did stay, watching as Doc Harmon unwrapped the bandages and examined Yates's wound. The stitches were healing cleanly, no sign of infection. "You have been taking care of yourself," the doctor said approvingly, "or someone has been taking care of you." He glanced at Olivia. "Another week and you should be able to walk short distances with a cane. 2 weeks and you will be good as new." After the doctor left, Olivia helped Yates back into bed. He caught her hand before she could step away. "Thank you," he said, "for taking care of me. You would do the same for me." In a heartbeat, he pulled her down for one more kiss. "Now go have dinner with your family before they send a search party." That evening at dinner, Margaret cornered Olivia in the hallway outside the dining room. "Everyone is talking about you and that drifter," her sister hissed. "They say you spend all your time in his room. Do you have any idea what that looks like?" "I know exactly what it looks like," Olivia said calmly. "And I do not care." "Well, you should care. You are ruining your reputation." "Margaret, I have never had much of a reputation to ruin. I am the boring sister, remember, the one nobody wants." "That is not true." "It is, and we both know it." Olivia softened her voice. "I am not trying to hurt you, but for once in my life someone is choosing me first. Someone is looking at me the way men look at you. And I am not going to apologize for that or hide it or feel ashamed of it." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "I never meant to make you feel that way. I never wanted to be prettier or more charming. I just was. I know." Olivia pulled her sister into a hug. "And I am not angry about it anymore. Because Yates does not care about any of that. He just wants me. And that is worth more than anything else in the world." Her sister hugged her back tightly. "Do you really love him?" "I really do." "Then I am happy for you, even if he is a drifter with no prospects." Olivia laughed. We will work on the prospects part. She went back to Yates's room after dinner and found him at the window, standing with his weight on his good leg. He turned when she came in, a smile lighting up his face. "You should not be on your feet," she scolded, hurrying to his side. "I wanted to see the sunset." He wrapped an arm around her waist, leaning on her for support. Together they watched the sky turn orange and pink and purple over the Kansas prairie. "It is beautiful," Olivia murmured. "Not as beautiful as you." Yates turned her to face him. "I have been thinking. After my leg heals, I need to find work. I need to prove to your father that I can support you. Papa is not difficult to please. He will just want to know that you are honest and hardworking. I am both those things, but I want to give you more than just scraping by. You deserve better than that. I do not need much, Yates, just you." He kissed her temple. "You are going to have me and a good life, I promise." Over the next week, as Yates regained his strength and started walking with a cane, he also started making connections in Wilson. He talked to the sheriff about deputy work. He talked to the owner of the livery stable about horse training. He talked to farmers about ranch hand positions. Word spread through town that the drifter who had saved lives was looking to settle down, and suddenly opportunities appeared. Mr. Henderson, who owned a large cattle ranch outside of town, offered Yates a job as his foreman. The previous foreman had died over the winter, and Henderson had been struggling to manage the ranch alone. It was good pay, respectable work, and came with a small house on the property. Yates accepted immediately, then came to find Olivia in the hotel dining room where she was helping her mother mend linens. "Can I speak to your father?" he asked, his eyes shining with barely contained excitement. Olivia's heart leaped. "He is at the feed store. Come with me." She set down her sewing and took his hand. They walked together through the late afternoon sunshine to the feed store, Yates leaning only slightly on his cane. The door jangled as they entered, and Olivia's father looked up from the counter where he was tallying receipts. "Mr. Owens," Yates said, "I would like to speak with you about your daughter." Her father set down his pencil. "I figured this was coming. Have a seat, both of you." They sat in the two chairs across from the counter. Olivia's palms were sweating and she wiped them on her skirt. Yates took her hand in his, steady and sure. "Sir, I know I am not what you would have chosen for Olivia," Yates began. "I am just a drifter who happened to be in the right place at the right time. But I love your daughter more than anything in this world. I have accepted a job as foreman at the Henderson Ranch with good pay and a house. I can provide for her, and I promise you I will spend every day of my life making sure she knows she is loved and valued and cherished." Mr. Owens studied them both for a long moment. "And what does Olivia want?" "I want to marry him, Papa," Olivia said softly. "I know it is fast. I know it seems crazy, but he is right. We love each other, and I have never been more sure of anything." Her father sighed. "You are 23 years old, Olivia, old enough to make your own choices. And I will not lie, I was worried you would end up settling for some man who saw you as second best. But this young man looks at you like you hung the moon." He turned to Yates. "You heard her. I will come after you with my shotgun. Understood?" "Understood, sir." "But I promise you that will never happen. Then you have my blessing." Mr. Owens stood and reached across the counter to shake Yates's hand. "Welcome to the family, son." Olivia threw herself into her father's arms, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, Papa. Be happy, sweetheart. That is all I ever wanted for you." They were married 3 weeks later in the small church on the edge of town. It was a simple ceremony, nothing fancy or elaborate. Olivia wore her mother's wedding dress, altered to fit her frame. Yates wore a new suit that Mr. Henderson had bought him as a wedding gift. Margaret was the maid of honor and stood beside her sister with genuine happiness in her eyes. The sheriff gave Yates away since he had no family of his own. when the preacher asked if Yates would take Olivia as his lawful wedded wife. He said, "I will," with such conviction that several women in the congregation started crying. And when Olivia said her own vows, looking into Yates's green eyes, she knew with absolute certainty that she was making the right choice. They kissed to seal the marriage, and the small church erupted in applause. Olivia felt like she was floating as they walked back down the aisle together, husband and wife. The reception was held at the hotel, with food and music and dancing. Yates held Olivia close as they swayed to the fiddle music, his breath warm against her ear. "Mrs. Randolph," he murmured. "I like the sound of that." "So do I," she whispered back. "I really, really do." They left the reception early, amid much teasing and laughter, and rode out to the Henderson ranch in a borrowed wagon. The small foreman's house sat on a hill overlooking the ranch buildings, a two-room structure with a front porch and a view of endless prairie. It was not much, but it was theirs. Yates carried Olivia over the threshold, careful not to jar his still-healing leg. He set her down gently in the middle of the main room and just looked at her. "What?" she asked, suddenly shy. "I am just thinking about how my life changed in a single afternoon," he said. "How I rode into Wilson with no plans beyond maybe a hot meal and a bed for the night. And now I have a wife and a home and a future. All because I chose to help a woman in a brown dress." "Lucky for me you have good taste in dresses," Olivia said with a smile. He laughed and pulled her close. "Lucky for me you have a good heart and a beautiful soul and more courage than anyone I have ever met." He kissed her then, deep and thorough, and Olivia felt heat unfurl in her belly. She had been nervous about this part, the wedding night, but with Yates everything felt right. Natural. Like they were meant to fit together this way. "Are you nervous?" he asked against her lips. "A little," she admitted. "But mostly I am just happy." "Me too." He kissed her again, softer this time. "We can go as slow as you need." But Olivia found she did not want to go slow. She wanted everything with this man, her husband, the person who had chosen her first. She reached up and started unbuttoning his shirt, her fingers trembling only slightly. "I love you," she said. "I love you so much it scares me. Do not be scared." He covered her hands with his. "I've got you, today and forever." They made love slowly, learning each other's bodies, finding what brought pleasure and what brought joy. Yates was gentle and patient, checking constantly to make sure Olivia was comfortable, that she wanted this. And she did wanted him, wanted the intimacy and connection and bone-deep rightness of being with him. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the narrow bed, Olivia's head on Yates's chest, listening to his heartbeat slow and steady beneath her ear. "That was perfect," she murmured. "You are perfect," he stroked her hair. "My perfect wife," she smiled against his skin. "Say it again." "What, that you are perfect?" "No, that I am your wife. You are my wife, Olivia Randolph. Today and every day after, until we are old and gray and our great-grandchildren are running around causing chaos." "That sounds wonderful." "It does it not?" He pulled her closer. "I cannot wait to build that life with you." They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, and Olivia felt safer and more loved than she ever had in her entire life. The next few months passed in a blur of happiness. Yates thrived as the foreman of the Henderson ranch, earning the respect of the ranch hands and proving himself to be an excellent cattleman. Olivia threw herself into making their little house a home, sewing curtains and planting a garden and learning to cook the foods Yates loved. They fell into an easy rhythm. Yates would leave before dawn to oversee the ranch work, and Olivia would have breakfast waiting when he came back to the house for the mid-morning break. They would eat together and talk about their days, stealing kisses between bites of bacon and eggs. In the evenings, they would sit on the porch and watch the sunset, Yates's arm around Olivia's shoulders, both of them content in the quiet. "Do you ever miss drifting?" Olivia asked him one evening in July as the sky turned orange and gold. "Not even a little bit," Yates said. "I have everything I need right here." "But you traveled so much, saw so many places. Does it not get boring staying in one spot?" He turned to look at her. "Olivia, I spent 10 years drifting because I had nothing to stay for. I thought I was looking for something out there, some place that would feel like home, but I was wrong. Home is not a place, it is a person. It is you." She leaned into him. "You always know exactly what to say. It helps that I mean every word." He kissed the top of her head. "Besides, we can travel if you want. When we save up enough, we can take a trip. See some of those places I told you about." "Really? Really? I want to show you the world, Olivia, but I also want to come back here with you to our home, to the life we are building together." In August, Olivia started feeling tired and queasy in the mornings. At first, she thought it was the summer heat or something she ate. But when the symptoms persisted for 2 weeks, she went to see Doc Harmon. He examined her thoroughly, asked a series of questions, then sat back with a smile. "Congratulations, Mrs. Randolph. You are going to have a baby." Olivia's hand flew to her stomach. "Are you sure?" "Very sure. I would say you are about 6 or 7 weeks along. That would put the baby due in late February or early March." She walked home in a daze, her mind spinning. A baby. She and Yates were going to have a baby. The news filled her with equal parts joy and terror. What if she was not a good mother? What if something went wrong? What if she stopped herself? No, she was not going to spiral into worry and fear. She was going to be happy about this, because it was happy news. She and Yates were bringing a new life into the world, a child born from their love. When Yates came home that evening, Olivia met him at the door with tears in her eyes. "What is wrong?" he asked immediately, concern flooding his face. "Are you hurt?" "No, I am fine, better than fine." She took his hands and placed them on her still flat stomach. "We are going to have a baby." For a moment, Yates just stared at her. Then his face broke into the biggest smile she had ever seen, and he let out a whoop of joy. He picked her up and spun her around, laughing. "We are having a baby," he shouted to the prairie. "Do you hear that, world? I am going to be a father." Olivia laughed through her tears. "Put me down before you hurt your leg." He set her down gently but kept his arms around her. "A baby," he said wonderingly. "Our baby. Olivia, you have just made me the happiest man in the entire world. So you are happy about this?" "Happy. I am ecstatic. I am over the moon." "I am." He stopped and cupped her face in his hands. "I am so in love with you I cannot even find the words. Thank you. Thank you for choosing me, for marrying me, for giving me a family." "We chose each other," she said softly, "and I would do it again in a heartbeat." He kissed her then, tender and sweet, his hands cradling her face like she was made of spun glass. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were crying. "Boy or girl, what do you think?" Yates asked, his hand moving to her stomach. "I do not know. What do you want?" "I want whatever you give me. Healthy, that is all that matters." He paused. "Though if it is a girl, I hope she looks like you, and if it is a boy, I hope he has your courage and your heart." "And your eyes," Olivia added. "I want a baby with your eyes." They spent the rest of the evening making plans, talking about names and nursery arrangements and all the things they would need. Yates was already thinking about adding a room onto their little house, turning it from 2 rooms into 3 so the baby could have its own space. "We have time," Olivia reminded him. "The baby is not due until March. I know, but I want everything to be perfect. I want our child to have everything." "Our child will have everything that matters," Olivia said. "Love and safety and 2 parents who adore each other. That is more than a lot of children have." The pregnancy was not easy. Olivia was sick almost every morning for the first 3 months, barely able to keep food down. Yates was endlessly patient, holding her hair back when she was ill, bringing her crackers and ginger tea, rubbing her back until she felt well enough to face the day. "I am sorry," she said one morning after a particularly bad bout of sickness. "For what?" "For being so useless. For not being able to help around the house or cook your meals or—" "Stop." He pulled her into his arms. "You are growing our baby. That is the most important job in the world right now. Everything else can wait." By October, the sickness had faded and Olivia felt like herself again. Her stomach was starting to round out, a small but noticeable bump. Yates could not keep his hands off it, constantly touching and talking to the baby. "You are going to be so loved," he would whisper to her belly. "Your mama and I are going to give you the best life, I promise." Olivia's parents came to visit regularly, bringing supplies and offering advice. Margaret came less often, but when she did, she was genuinely excited about becoming an aunt. "I still cannot believe you got married and pregnant before me," Margaret teased one afternoon as they sat on the porch shelling peas. "Life is full of surprises," Olivia replied with a smile. "Are you happy? Really and truly happy?" Olivia looked out at the prairie, then back at her sister. "I am happier than I ever thought possible. Yates is everything I did not know I needed, and this baby—" She touched her stomach. "This baby is going to be so loved, Margaret, so incredibly loved. I can see that." Her sister reached over and squeezed her hand. "I am glad you found him. I am glad you found each other." Winter came early that year, with snow falling in November and temperatures dropping fast. Yates worked long hours making sure the cattle were protected, and the ranch was ready for the cold months. Olivia spent her days keeping the house warm and preparing for the baby's arrival. She sewed tiny clothes and blankets, her hands moving constantly. Mrs. Henderson donated a beautiful wooden cradle that had belonged to her own children, and Olivia cried when she saw it. Everything felt so real now. In a few months, there would be a baby sleeping in that cradle. Their baby. Christmas was quiet but perfect. Yates surprised Olivia with a rocking chair he had built himself, smooth and sturdy with a comfortable cushion. She surprised him with a hand-knitted sweater and the news that the baby had started kicking. He placed his hand on her stomach and waited, his face alight with wonder. When the baby kicked against his palm, tears filled his eyes. "Hello in there," he said softly. "This is your papa. I cannot wait to meet you." They spent Christmas evening in front of the fire, Olivia in her new rocking chair and Yates sitting on the floor beside her, his head resting against her knee. Outside, snow fell soft and silent, blanketing the prairie in white. "This is the best Christmas I have ever had," Yates said. "Me too," Olivia agreed. "Though next year will be even better. Next year we will have the baby. I can hardly wait." January brought bitter cold and howling winds. Olivia grew larger and more uncomfortable, her back aching and her ankles swelling. Yates did everything he could to make her comfortable, drawing warm baths and massaging her feet and bringing her whatever food she was craving. "You are too good to me," she said one evening as he rubbed her swollen ankles. "Impossible. I could never be good enough for you." "Yates, I mean it, Olivia. You are carrying our child. You are doing something miraculous and difficult and painful, and you do it with grace and courage. I am in awe of you." She felt tears prick her eyes. Pregnancy had made her emotional, prone to crying at the smallest things. "I love you so much." "I love you too, both of you." He leaned forward and kissed her belly. "Both of you more than all the stars in the sky." In early February, Olivia woke in the middle of the night with a strange aching in her back. She tried to ignore it and go back to sleep, but the ache persisted, growing stronger. Then she felt a warm gush of liquid between her legs and realized what was happening. "Yates," she said, shaking him awake. "Yates, it is time. The baby is coming." He was up in an instant, pulling on his clothes and boots. "Are you sure? My water just broke." "Yes, I am sure." "Okay, okay." He ran his hands through his hair, clearly trying not to panic. "I will get the midwife. You just do not have the baby until I get back." "I will do my best," Olivia said with a shaky laugh. He kissed her hard and fast, then ran out into the night. Olivia could hear him shouting for one of the ranch hands to saddle a horse. She managed to change into a clean nightgown and strip the bed, remaking it with old sheets they had set aside for this purpose. The contractions were coming regularly now, waves of pain that stole her breath. Yates returned with Mrs. Henderson, the closest thing to a midwife they had. The older woman took charge immediately, examining Olivia and declaring that the baby would arrive within a few hours. "You are doing fine, dear," Mrs. Henderson said. "Just breathe through the contractions. Your husband can stay if you want him here." "I want him here," Olivia said immediately, reaching for Yates. He took her hand and did not let go for the next 3 hours. He stayed by her side through every contraction, every push, every moment of pain. He whispered encouragement and wiped the sweat from her face and told her over and over how strong she was, how amazing, how much he loved her. Finally, just as dawn was breaking, the baby entered the world with a lusty cry. Mrs. Henderson cleaned and wrapped the infant, then placed the tiny bundle in Olivia's arms. "You have a son," she said with a smile. Olivia looked down at the red-faced, squalling baby and felt her heart crack wide open with love. He was perfect, absolutely perfect. 10 tiny fingers and 10 tiny toes and a head covered in dark hair. "Hello, little one," she whispered. "We have been waiting for you." Yates sat on the edge of the bed, staring at their son with wonder in his eyes. "He is beautiful," he said hoarsely. "He is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen, except for his mother. Do you want to hold him?" "Can I?" "Of course you can. He is your son." Mrs. Henderson showed Yates how to support the baby's head, and then Olivia carefully transferred their son into his father's arms. Yates looked terrified and awed and completely in love, all at the same time. "Hello, son," he said softly. "I am your papa, and I promise you I am going to do everything in my power to give you a good life. You are going to grow up knowing you are loved and wanted and cherished. You are going to know that you were chosen, not by accident but with intention and joy, and you are never, ever going to feel like you are anything less than first choice." Olivia started crying again, overwhelmed by the scene in front of her. This was her family, her husband and her son. The family she had built with a man who had chosen her when no one else had. "What should we name him?" she asked. Yates looked at her. "I was thinking about your father. What about Owen as a middle name? And for the first name, I always liked Thomas. Thomas Owen Randolph." "Thomas Owen Randolph," Olivia repeated. "Tommy, I love it. Tommy it is." Yates kissed his son's forehead. "Welcome to the world, Tommy Randolph. Your mama and I love you so much." Mrs. Henderson stayed long enough to make sure Olivia and the baby were stable, then left them alone as a family. Yates climbed into bed beside Olivia, careful not to jostle her, and they both just stared at their son in wonder. "We made this," Olivia said. "We made an entire person. We did." Yates wrapped his free arm around her shoulders. "And he is perfect because he came from you." "From both of us," she corrected. "He has your eyes. Look." The baby's eyes were still the unfocused blue of all newborns, but Olivia could see Yates in the shape of his face, the curve of his mouth. "He is going to be handsome like his papa," she said, "and strong like his mama." They sat there for hours, just the 3 of them, watching their son sleep. The world outside could wait. For now, this was everything. The next few weeks were exhausting and exhilarating in equal measure. Tommy was a hungry baby, nursing constantly. Olivia was tired beyond belief, barely getting any sleep. But every time she looked at her son, every time she held him or fed him or changed his diaper, she felt a rush of love so intense it took her breath away. Yates was an involved father from the start. He changed diapers and walked the floor with Tommy when the baby was fussy. He sang lullabies in a surprisingly good voice and told stories about the ranch and the cattle. He was completely and utterly devoted to his son. "You are a natural at this," Olivia told him one night as she watched him rock Tommy to sleep. "I just want him to know he is loved," Yates said simply. "I want him to grow up with no doubts about that. He will. We will make sure of it." As Tommy grew, his personality started to emerge. He was a serious baby, more likely to stare intently at his surroundings than to smile. But when he did smile, it lit up his whole face and made all the sleepless nights worthwhile. By spring, life had settled into a new normal. Olivia learned to manage the house and the baby, becoming more confident in her role as a mother. Yates continued to excel at his job, earning raises and the trust of Mr. Henderson. They were happy, truly happy, in a way that felt almost miraculous. One evening in May, as they sat on the porch with Tommy asleep in his cradle beside them, Olivia turned to Yates. "You ever think about that day?" she asked. "The day the outlaws came to town, all the time," he said. "It changed my entire life." "Mine too." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Sometimes I still cannot believe it was real, that you picked me, that we built all this." "It is real, Olivia, and it is forever." He kissed her temple. "You are my choice, today and every day after, just like I promised. You and Tommy, my family." "I never thought I would have this," she admitted. "I thought I would always be the girl nobody wanted, the one who was never quite good enough. You were always good enough. Everyone else was just blind." He tilted her face up to look at him. "But I see you, Olivia. I see your strength and your kindness and your beautiful heart. And I thank God every day that I was in Wilson that afternoon, that I saw you running from those outlaws, that I had the chance to save you so you could save me right back. I love you," she whispered. "I love you so much it scares me sometimes. Do not be scared. I am not going anywhere. I am here forever and always." The years passed in a blur of joy and challenges. Tommy grew into a sturdy toddler, then a curious little boy. He had his father's green eyes and his mother's stubborn determination. When he was 3, Olivia got pregnant again, and this time she gave birth to a daughter they named Sarah Rose. 2 years after that, another son arrived whom they named Daniel. The little 2-room house became crowded with 3 children, so Yates added on more rooms, turning it into a proper family home. He proved to be an excellent foreman, and when Mr. Henderson retired, he sold a portion of his land to Yates at a generous price. Suddenly, they were not just ranch employees but landowners, with their own cattle and their own future. Olivia's parents aged gracefully, spending their later years doting on their grandchildren. Margaret married a banker from Topeka and moved away, but she visited regularly with her own growing family. The sisters grew closer as adults, their old rivalries forgotten. Through it all, Yates and Olivia's love never dimmed. If anything, it grew stronger with each passing year. They faced hardships together: a harsh winter that killed some of their cattle, a drought that threatened their crops, illnesses and injuries, and the 1,000 small challenges of raising a family. But they faced them together always, their partnership unshakable. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Yates surprised Olivia with a trip to Denver. They left the children with Olivia's parents and took the train west, spending 3 glorious days just the 2 of them. They stayed in a fancy hotel and ate at nice restaurants, and walked through the city holding hands like newlyweds. On their last evening, they sat in the hotel restaurant overlooking the mountains, and Yates reached across the table to take Olivia's hand. "Do you remember what I said to you in that hotel room in Wilson?" he asked. "When I had just been shot and you thought I was delirious. You said I was your choice," Olivia replied, "today and every day after. I meant it then and I mean it now. You are still my choice, Olivia. You will always be my choice. These 10 years with you have been the best years of my life, and I want 50 more just like them." Olivia felt tears prick her eyes. "You are still so good with words. It helps that I mean them." He lifted her hand to his lips. "Thank you for choosing me back. For taking a chance on a drifter with nothing to offer but his heart. You gave me everything," she said softly. "You gave me love and a home and a family. You gave me a life I never dreamed I could have. I am the lucky one, Yates. We are both lucky." He smiled at her, that same smile that had stolen her breath 10 years ago. "Lucky we were both in Wilson on that day. Lucky those outlaws were terrible shots. Lucky I had the courage to tell you how I felt. Lucky I was smart enough to say yes." They returned home to find their children healthy and happy, the ranch thriving, and spring in full bloom across the prairie. Life continued its steady march forward. The children grew older, becoming their own people with their own dreams and ambitions. Tommy grew tall and serious, with his father's work ethic and his mother's stubborn determination. Sarah Rose was bright and curious, always asking questions and pushing boundaries. Daniel was the peacemaker, gentle and kind-hearted. Yates taught his sons to work cattle and care for horses. Olivia taught her daughter to sew and cook and manage a household. But more than any practical skills, they taught all their children what it meant to be loved unconditionally, to be someone's first choice always. Never settle for someone who makes you feel like a backup plan, Olivia told Sarah Rose when her daughter was old enough to understand. "You deserve someone who looks at you the way your father looks at me. Like you are the sun and moon and stars all rolled into one." "Did you always know Papa was the one?" Sarah Rose asked. "I knew from the first moment," Olivia admitted. "But I was scared. It seemed too good to be true. But your father proved every day that it was real, that I could trust it. And he still proves it now, 20 years later." "I want a love like that," Sarah Rose said wistfully. "You will find it. And when you do, you will know, because it will feel like coming home." The children eventually grew up and left, one by one. Tommy married a neighboring rancher's daughter and started his own spread nearby. Sarah Rose married a teacher and moved to Wichita, where she opened a school for girls. Daniel became a doctor and settled in Kansas City, dedicating his life to helping others. Yates and Olivia found themselves alone again, just the two of them in their house on the hill. Their hair was gray now, their faces lined with age. But when Yates looked at Olivia, he still saw the woman in the brown dress who had stolen his heart 30 years ago. "We did good," he said one evening as they sat on the porch, watching another sunset. "We did," Olivia agreed. 3 good kids, all happy and settled. Grandchildren on the way, the ranch is thriving. We have been blessed, Yates. "The biggest blessing was you saying yes to me," he said. "Everything else came from that." She leaned into him, fitting perfectly against his side the way she had for decades. "Do you have any regrets?" "Not a single one, do you?" "No, well, maybe one." He looked at her in surprise. "What is it?" "I regret that it took a shootout for us to meet," she said with a smile. "I wish we had found each other sooner. I wish I had more time with you." "We have all the time we need," he assured her. "And when our time is up, we will have lived a full and beautiful life together. Not many people can say that." "No," she agreed softly. "Not many people can." They grew old together. watching their grandchildren grow up, then their great-grandchildren. They celebrated 50 years of marriage with a huge party attended by their entire family and half the town of Wilson. Yates stood up to make a speech and could barely get through it without crying. 50 years ago, I was a drifter with nothing to my name, he said, his voice shaking. And then I met Olivia and she gave me everything. She gave me a home and a family and a reason to wake up every morning. She was my choice then and she is my choice now. Always. Olivia stood beside him, tears streaming down her face, and the whole room erupted in applause. When Yates was 72, his heart started to fail. The doctor said there was nothing to be done except make him comfortable. Yates refused to go to a hospital. He wanted to die at home, in the house he had built with Olivia, looking out at the prairie they both loved. Olivia never left his side. She sat with him day and night, holding his hand, talking to him about their life together. Their children came to say goodbye, bringing their own children and grandchildren. The house was full of love and grief and memories. On a clear spring morning with the windows open and a warm breeze blowing through the curtains, Yates squeezed Olivia's hand weakly. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you so much." "I love you too," she said through her tears. "Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for giving me the best life." "You gave me the best life," he corrected. "You saved me, Olivia, in every way a person can be saved. And you saved me." She kissed his forehead. "You showed me what it felt like to be chosen, to be loved. I will carry that with me always." He smiled, that same smile she had fallen in love with so many years ago. "Today and forever," he said softly. "Today and forever," she echoed. He closed his eyes and took one last breath, and then he was gone. Olivia held him for a long time, crying into his chest, feeling like her heart had been ripped from her body. But even through the grief, she felt grateful. Grateful for the 52 years they had shared. Grateful for the family they had built. Grateful that she had been loved so completely by such a good man. The funeral was huge, with people coming from all over Kansas to pay their respects. Yates Randolph had been a good man, a fair employer, a devoted husband and father. The church was packed, and people told stories about his kindness and integrity and the way he had lived his life. Olivia stood at his grave and said her final goodbye. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did. Thank you for choosing me first. I will love you until my last breath and beyond." She lived for 3 more years after Yates died, surrounded by her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She spent her days in the house on the hill, tending her garden and watching the prairie. She spoke of Yates often, keeping his memory alive for the younger generations who had never known him. When her time came, she went peacefully in her sleep, a smile on her face. Her children found her in her rocking chair, the one Yates had built her all those years ago, with a quilt tucked around her lap. They buried her next to Yates, their headstones side by side overlooking the ranch they had built together. The inscription on Olivia's headstone read, "Beloved wife, mother, grandmother, always someone's first choice." And on Yates's headstone, "Beloved husband, father, grandfather, he chose love and it chose him back." Their story became a family legend passed down through generations. The story of how a drifter and an overlooked girl met during a shootout and fell in love. How they built a life together from nothing but determination and devotion. How they proved that sometimes the best love stories start in the most unexpected ways. Their great-great-grandchildren still live in Kansas, many of them on land that once belonged to Yates and Olivia. They still tell the story of how it all started, on a spring afternoon in Wilson, when a cowboy made a choice that changed everything. The house on the hill still stands, lovingly maintained by the family. Inside, in a place of honor, hangs a photograph of Yates and Olivia on their 50th wedding anniversary. They are old and gray, but the love in their eyes is as bright and clear as it was on their wedding day. Yates's arm is around Olivia's shoulders and she is looking up at him with absolute adoration. Beneath the photograph is a small plaque with Yates's words engraved. "You are my choice, today and forever." And that, in the end, was the greatest gift he ever gave her. Not the house or the ranch or the family, though those were precious too, but the knowledge that she was chosen, deliberately and completely, by someone who saw her true worth. That she was never second best or a consolation prize, but the first and only choice of a good man's heart. Their love story had started with a bullet and a choice. It had grown through challenges and triumphs, through raising children and building a life. And it had endured beyond death, living on in the family they created and the legacy they left behind. In the wild west town of Wilson, Kansas, where outlaws once rode and gunshots rang out, there is now peace. But the memory remains of the day a cowboy chose to save a woman in a brown dress, and how that single choice rippled out to create generations of love. Olivia had once believed she would never be anyone's first choice. Yates had proven her wrong in the most beautiful way possible, and in doing so, he had given her not just his heart, but a future filled with joy and purpose and belonging. That was the real happy ending. Not that they lived without problems or pain, because they faced plenty of both, but that they faced everything together, two people who had chosen each other and continued choosing each other every single day. Through sickness and health, prosperity and hardship, joy and sorrow, they remained each other's first choice today and forever. And in a world where so many people never find that kind of love, where so many settle or compromise or give up, Yates and Olivia's story stands as a testament to what is possible when two hearts recognize each other and refuse to let go. They proved that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places, and that true love is not about finding someone perfect, but about finding someone who sees you perfectly. Their story ended not with death, but with the continuation of the love they had built. In their children's happy marriages, in their grandchildren's secure childhoods, in their great-grandchildren's understanding that they came from a lineage of love. Yates and Olivia's choice to love each other had created a legacy that would outlive them both. Generation after generation of people who understood what it meant to be chosen. And sometimes, on clear spring mornings in Wilson, Kansas, when the wind blows just right across the prairie, you can almost hear the echo of Yates's promise, spoken so long ago but never forgotten. "You are my choice, today and forever."